Never trust your brain when it comes to your to-do list. It's actively hijacking your plans, and most people have no idea it's happening. You know that feeling when you plan your entire day perfectly? You write everything down, set realistic times, feel super motivated. Then 3 p.m. hits, and you're somehow 3 hours behind schedule, wondering where the day went. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. This isn't because you're lazy or bad at planning. Your brain is literally programmed to hijack your productivity in ways you never see coming. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 hidden mental traps that are destroying your to-do list, and more importantly, how to outsmart them. By the end of this video, you'll finally understand why you keep falling into the same productivity holes, and you'll have the tools to climb out for good. We're talking about real psychology here, stuff that affects 90% of people, but almost nobody knows about it. Mental trap number 1, the planning fallacy. Let's start with the big one. The planning fallacy is why you think the presentation will take 2 hours, but it actually takes 6. It's why you leave for the airport with plenty of time and still end up running through terminals. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you estimate how long something will take, you automatically picture the best-case scenario. Your brain focuses on the actual task and completely ignores all the stuff that always happens. Interruptions, unexpected complexity, that thing you forgot you needed to do first. A study by psychologist Daniel Kahneman found that people underestimate task duration by an average of 27%. But here's the crazy part. Even when people know about this bias, they still fall for it. Students who were taught about the planning fallacy still underestimated their thesis completion times by weeks. It gets worse. The more complex the task, the bigger your estimation errors become. Simple tasks might be off by 20%, but big projects? You could be off by months. Your brain does this because it's trying to be helpful. It wants you to feel confident and motivated, so it shows you the highlight reel instead of the behind-the-scenes reality. But confidence built on fantasy isn't useful. It's sabotage. The fix is simple but not easy. First, stop trusting your gut for time estimates. Instead, think about the last 3 times you did something similar. What actually happened? Use that data, not your optimism. Second, add buffer time to everything. I mean everything. If you think something will take an hour, block out 75 minutes. This isn't being pessimistic. It's being realistic about how the world actually works. Quick recap and preview. So we just covered the planning fallacy. Your brain's tendency to live in fantasyland when estimating time. But that's just the beginning. Coming up, we're going to explore why you keep working on things that clearly aren't working, and how your brain tricks you into thinking busy work is actually productive work. Plus, I'll show you the confidence trap that makes beginners think they know more than experts. Mental trap number 2, the sunk cost fallacy. Picture this. You're reading a boring book. You're 200 pages in and hate every minute of it. But you keep reading because you've already invested so much time. Sound ridiculous? Your brain does this with tasks all day long. The sunk cost fallacy is when you continue doing something unproductive simply because you've already put time into it. Maybe you're in a meeting that stopped being useful an hour ago, but you stay because leaving would waste the time you already spent. Or you keep trying to fix a broken approach to a project because you've already worked on it for days. Here's the brutal truth. Time you've already spent is gone forever. It's sunk. The only question that matters is, what's the best use of your time right now? But your brain hates this logic. Loss aversion means we feel the pain of losing something twice as strongly as the joy of gaining the same thing. So, wasting 2 hours of previous work feels worse than gaining 3 hours by switching to a better approach. Companies fall into this trap with failed projects worth millions. People stay in bad relationships for years because of time already invested. And you keep working on tasks that stopped making sense hours ago. The solution requires a mental reset. Every hour, ask yourself, if I was starting this task fresh right now, would I choose this approach? If the answer is no, stop. Set predetermined quit points before you start projects. Decide in advance what would make you change course, then stick to it. Remember, the goal isn't to avoid all mistakes, it's to stop throwing good time after bad time. Mental trap number 3, the availability heuristic. Your brain has a terrible memory manager. It thinks whatever happened recently or dramatically is the most important thing in the world. This is called the availability heuristic, and it's why you spend your day putting out fires instead of building anything meaningful. Here's how it works. Your boss sends an urgent email at 10 a.m. about something that's actually not that important. But because it just happened and it felt dramatic, your brain marks it as priority 1. Meanwhile, the strategic project that will actually move your career forward sits untouched because it's not screaming at you. Studies show people overestimate the likelihood of events they can easily remember. Plane crashes feel more dangerous than car accidents because they're more memorable, even though statistically you're far safer in the air. Your brain does the same thing with tasks. Recent and dramatic feels important. Quiet and consistent gets ignored. This is why inbox 0 feels so satisfying but doesn't actually make you more successful. Answering emails is visible and immediate. Deep work is invisible and slow. So your brain keeps directing you toward the email. Social media companies exploit this bias ruthlessly. Every notification is designed to feel urgent and important, hijacking your attention away from what actually matters, and your brain falls for it every single time. The fix requires going external. Don't trust your brain to remember what's important. Write it down. Every week, review your actual goals, not just what feels urgent. Time block your important work first, before the urgent stuff takes over. Use the Eisenhower matrix. Divide tasks into urgent, not urgent, and important, not important. Your brain will always want to focus on urgent. Your success depends on protecting the important. Midpoint recap. All right, let's pause for a second. We've covered 3 major traps so far. The planning fallacy makes you terrible at estimating time. The sunk cost fallacy keeps you stuck doing unproductive work. And the availability heuristic tricks you into focusing on whatever screams loudest, instead of what actually matters. But we're not done yet. The next 2 traps are even more subtle, and they're about the stories you tell yourself about your own performance. These might be the most dangerous ones because they feel so good while they're destroying your results. Mental trap number 4, confirmation bias. Here's a scenario that happens every single day. You work hard all morning, answer a bunch of emails, attend 3 meetings, and update several spreadsheets. You feel accomplished. But when your boss asks what you achieved, you struggle to name anything concrete. Sound familiar? This is confirmation bias in action. Your brain's tendency to look for evidence that supports what you want to believe while ignoring evidence that contradicts it. When it comes to work, this means you notice all the activity you're doing while completely missing whether that activity actually matters. You see yourself staying busy, and your brain whispers, "Look how hard you're working." You don't notice that being busy isn't the same as being effective. You're looking for proof that you're doing well, so your brain helpfully provides it. Even when that proof is meaningless. This shows up everywhere at work. You notice when you respond to emails quickly, but ignore whether those responses solved actual problems. You feel good about attending meetings, but don't track whether those meetings led to decisions or action. You celebrate completing tasks without asking if those tasks moved anything important forward. A study of knowledge workers found that people consistently overestimated their contribution to team projects. Everyone thought they did more than their fair share because they vividly remembered their own efforts, while other people's work remained invisible to them. Your brain is constantly building a case that you're performing well, cherry-picking evidence that supports this story. It's not lying to you. It genuinely believes the narrative it's creating. But that narrative might be based on irrelevant data. The antidote requires brutal honesty about outcomes versus activities. Don't measure how many things you did. Measure whether those things mattered. Ask yourself weekly, if someone judged my performance purely on results, Ignoring how busy I looked, what would they conclude? Track meaningful metrics, not vanity metrics. Solve problems, not hours worked. Decisions made, not meetings attended. Progress toward goals, not items checked off lists. Mental trap number 5, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Picture your first week at any new job. You probably felt pretty confident about your abilities, maybe even thought you could improve how things were done. Fast forward 6 months, and you realized how much you didn't know back then. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect in action. The less you know about something, the more confident you are in your abilities. This bias doesn't just hit beginners. It shows up every time you enter a new domain at work. You join a new team and immediately spot obvious improvements. You start using new software and think you've mastered it after a few days. You get promoted to management and feel ready to revolutionize how things operate. Studies consistently show that people in the bottom 25% of performance think they're in the top 25%. It's not arrogance. They literally don't know enough to recognize what good performance looks like. They can't see the gap between their current abilities and expertise because they don't understand what expertise entails. This creates dangerous overconfidence at work. You volunteer for projects beyond your skill level. You make commitments based on optimistic assumptions about your capabilities. You dismiss advice from experienced colleagues because you think you've figured out a better way. I see this constantly in the workplace. New hires who think they can redesign entire processes after understanding 10% of the complexity. Mid-level employees who are certain they could run things better than senior management. Specialists who venture into new areas and assume their expertise will transfer seamlessly. The most insidious part is that initial success reinforces the overconfidence. You might get lucky early on, or your fresh perspective might actually help with a specific problem. But instead of recognizing these as exceptions, your brain treats them as proof of your superior abilities. Real competence takes time to develop and even longer to recognize in yourself. True experts tend to be more humble about their abilities because they understand how much they still don't know. They've seen enough complexity to respect it. The fix starts with intellectual humility. When entering new domains, assume there's more complexity than you can see. Seek out people who have been doing this work for years and really listen to their perspective. Ask questions like, what mistakes do people typically make when they're starting out? And what did you wish you knew earlier? Test your assumptions in small, reversible ways before making big commitments. And remember, confidence should be earned through demonstrated results over time, not granted automatically because something feels intuitive. Feels the bigger picture. Now you understand the 5 mental traps that hijack your to-do list. But here's the meta lesson that matters most. Awareness is your superpower. These biases exist because they usually work. Planning optimistically motivates you to start projects. Sticking with investments sometimes pays off. Focusing on urgent things sometimes prevents disasters. Feeling confident about your work maintains momentum. An initial enthusiasm helps you try new approaches. The problem isn't that these mental shortcuts are always wrong. It's that they're predictably wrong in specific situations. Once you know the patterns, you can spot them before they derail you. Your brain is like an overprotective friend. It means well, but it's constantly steering you toward what feels safe and comfortable rather than what actually works. Learning to recognize and gently override these impulses is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. The goal isn't to eliminate these biases entirely. That's impossible. The goal is to catch them in action and adjust course before they waste too much of your time. So what do you actually do with this information? Pick one bias that you recognize most in yourself while watching this video. Just one. Try implementing one suggested fix for that bias over the next week. If planning fallacy is your biggest issue, start adding 50% buffer time to all your estimates. If sunk cost is the problem, set up hourly check-ins where you ask if you'd start the task fresh. If availability heuristic sounds familiar, do a weekly goal review every Sunday. Don't try to fix everything at once. That's just another cognitive bias talking. Small, consistent changes compound over time into major improvements. The most important thing to remember is this: you're not broken and you're not uniquely bad at productivity. Your brain is just using the wrong tools for the job. Now, you know what those tools are and how to swap them out for better ones. Understanding these 5 traps is just the beginning. Next week, I'll show you the psychology behind procrastination and why willpower isn't the answer you think it is. Drop a comment below and let me know which mental trap you recognize most in yourself. And don't forget to subscribe for more psychology-backed productivity tips that actually work.